It's a good report, it's a long report, but basically you see GDP growth 2.5% the next 10 to 15 years. That is pretty optimistic.
Well, not really. It hasn't really changed year on year. I mean, we project once a year the next 10 to 15 years. So these are our views going out that are going to take us to 2033. And, seeing 2.5% average real GDP globally is consistent with a fairly stable long-term outlook. The reason why we're arguing that next year could be a seminal year is because one of two things that's never happened before is going to happen. Either the US is going to make a new record in terms of the length of this particular cycle, or it's going to roll over. Either one is going to be, I think, an important signalling point. And what we're arguing is that longer-term investors need to be increasingly aware of where we sit in the cycle. And we've noticed this within US assets in particular, because we're getting these increased growth concerns. We've seen the Fed raising rates. Things like 10-year bonds are now at a level where actually they offer good value within a portfolio. So while we continue to be marginally optimistic that growth is still a bit above trend right now, we are taking note of the fact that market pricing is telling us that we should be leaning perhaps towards a slightly more defensive portfolio. As some of the earlier discussions on this program here have showed, it's difficult to find compelling arguments in a lot of regions globally today over the next sort of 6 to 12 months, and that's leading us to concentrate risk back towards places like the US, where growth is coming through reasonably strongly. But as we're getting that later cycle dynamic, bonds are offering us a reasonable real return. That means I think we need to be a little bit aware of getting through the end of this cycle, not necessarily fixating it, but being prepared for the next one. Because ultimately, that's the key to long-term investing, is not just thinking about what happens in 2019, but thinking about the contour of growth thereafter.